So following Errol Spence's win over Sean Porter over the weekend, it's now coming to light that he will probably end up facing, or actually it looks like that he will face, Danny Garcia next. And it looks like it's going to be in January 2020, towards the end of January. So it could be one of the first fights of the new year. The venue has not been formally announced yet, but it looks like this fight is likely to happen. It's going to be for the IBF WBC welterweight title. Now, I think the WBC may even try and do this as a mandatory, because I think Danny Garcia is highly ranked. I think he might even be number one ranked with the WBC. So they may even try and do this as a mandatory. Having said all that, Danny Garcia versus Spence. It's not a fight that really jumps out at me as one that I want to see. That's just just personally. Danny Garcia as a welterweight, as a fighter, he's good. He's a world level fighter, definitely. But I've never seen Danny Garcia as being elite. Never seen him as being elite. The biggest win on his resume, you would have to say, would be Amir Khan. And he knocked Amir Khan out very well. Took care of him in 4 rounds. Could have him out there in 3. But that's an Amir Khan who fought extremely reckless that night. And I know a lot of people felt that, because Amir Khan was mandatory for Danny Garcia at one stage. I know a lot of people felt that in a rematch, a less than reckless Amir Khan would do a lot better, probably maybe even win. Danny Garcia, he always comes out and says, I'm this big, I'm one of the biggest punchers in the welterweight division, this, that, and the other. I've never rated Danny Garcia as a puncher. I don't think he's as big a puncher as he tries to make himself out to be. I think that if you cherry pick as much as Danny Garcia does against the opponents he does, because he fights opponents who come at him, and Danny Garcia being a very flat-footed fighter, he needs you to come at him to hit with maximum power. So he's fighting guys like Rod Salka. He's fighting guys like Brandon Rios. He can look spectacular against them guys. He can look like he's a puncher against them guys. But when you step him up to people who move, like your Lamont Petersons, who've been down before, well then he doesn't have that power. He needs really for you to come at him and to not have a great defense to be able to land them big shots. So Danny Garcia's punching power, I've never been convinced by it personally. And when he comes up against elite world level guys like your Keith Thurmans, like your Sean Porters, he's lost. I think against Spence, I don't think Spence will stop Danny Garcia. That has a 12-round fight written all over it. So if you're looking for, odds on this fight, or you're looking to bet on this fight, I'd be betting that this fight goes 12 rounds. Definitely. 2 reasons. One is, world level welterweight, you don't tend to see a lot of knockouts. You might see someone get dropped like Sean Porter did, but for the most part, you see them fights go 12 rounds. For the most part, anyway. As well as that, Danny Garcia is a fighter who's been in there with big punchers. He's been in there with Keith Thurman. He's been in there with guys like Lucas Matisse. He's never shown any vulnerabilities to the chin that I can see. I think was Azab Judah maybe rocked him a little bit in their fight several years ago. But other than that, I've never seen Danny Garcia remotely stunned, remotely rocked. He seems to have quite a good chin, does Danny Garcia. I don't think Errol Spence is necessarily the biggest puncher in the 147-pound weight division. He's not feather-fisted. He can definitely punch. But I don't think he's a devastating concussive puncher. I think he's a bit more heavy-handed than he is a devastating puncher. So I would imagine this fight will go the distance. Errol Spence is way more skilled. He's good on the outside. He's good on the back foot. And when he needs to, he will take it to you. He will brawl. He will let them body punches go. And I just don't see Danny Garcia being able to beat Errol Spence. Even at this stage in his career, I just don't see Danny Garcia having it in the tank. I think that Spence will be a bit too elusive. I think that Danny Garcia, as I said, he's very flat-footed. He needs you to be coming at him for him to be able to generate any real power in the shots, because one good thing about being flat-footed is means you're always on point to throw hard shots. But as I said, you need an opponent coming at you, and you need them obviously to have a leaky defense. Obviously with Amir Khan fought so recklessly in that fight, gave him loads of opportunities to counter. That's one thing about Danny Garcia. He is a decent counter puncher, to be fair. He is a decent counter puncher, but with someone like Amir Khan, he's so easy to read. The speed is an issue, but if you can get through the first few rounds with Amir Khan, you can kind of telegraph the speed. You kind of get an idea of where he is in terms of what he's going to do, essentially, with the speed. So I don't read that much into Danny Garcia versus Amir Khan win. And I think that against Errol Spence, I think that is a Spence win. I think it's a point win for Errol Spence. Maybe if he can get them body shots going, he may wear Danny Garcia down enough to stop him. But I think that has points decision written all over it. I would imagine that he will have an easier time with Garcia than he would against Sean Porter. I think styles make fights, and I think that Danny Garcia versus Errol Spence, I think that that'd be an easier fight for Errol Spence than the Sean Porter fight would be. That's just in my opinion. I could be completely wrong. This fight could happen, and Danny Garcia could be incredibly competitive. I just don't see it. You know, I've just no. Danny Garcia is a very good fighter. He's a world level welterweight, but when you're dealing with the elite, it's different class. You know, the fight I want to see Spence in is Spence versus Crawford. I've said that since day dot. I would actually rather see Spence versus Crawford than AJ versus Wilder, because I think it's just a fascinating fight. I've said this once and I'll say it again. If Spence fights Terence Crawford or faces Terence Crawford, I would be picking Terence Crawford to win that fight. Very close, very competitive fight, but I would have Terence Crawford beating Errol Spence, in my opinion. Having said all that, it looks likely that this is the fight we're going to get. We're going to get Garcia versus Spence in January. So quick enough turnaround for Errol Spence. So we get to see him in the ring reasonably early. Decent fight, but would I want to see him with Garcia? Not really. But I understand why. It's a name. It's an in-house fight. They're both PBC fighters. And we know Al Heyman loves to keep things in-house. So I can see why they're taking this fight. But personally, I think that this has a Spence points decision written all over it. That's just what I think. That's my opinion on this fight. Let me know what you think down below. Am I selling Danny Garcia short? Do you think he could be more competitive? Do you think he could beat Spence? Let me know down below. Leave your comments down below. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like. Subscribe if you're new. And as always, I will talk to you after.